We're live. Hi, welcome to Church Communications. Excited to have Michael from Church Media Squad today on the webinar. Michael has been a great friend of our group for many years. We've actually used Church Media Squad in the past.
Yes.
Church Communications has. And I just love what he does. I love his company. I think that Michael, honestly, is just a really nice human. And I really appreciate that. Yeah, finding kind people is very hard to do, I feel like, in this world. So the more you can have, the better. You should keep them around. And so I'm really excited to have him with us.
Cool. I'm excited to be here, Katie. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Why don't you tell us? Okay, so first off, tell us how we pronounce your last name.
Oh, good.
And then tell us a little bit about Church Media Squad.
Awesome. Well, my last name, it's you think of the word letter or number 2, so Tuszynski. You kind of take it in those three steps, and you got it. Not as hard as Tuszynski or anything like that. It's just Tuszynski, nice and simple.
That's not hard at all.
No, not at all. So what's the next question? How did Church Media? What was the next question? I missed it already.
Yeah, tell us about Church Media Squad. What it is.
Yeah, so Church Media Squad officially started kind of as an accident back in 2017, and we
accident.
What's that?
A happy accident.
A happy accident. Yeah, I'm happy that it's happened. Kind of wasn't planning on starting a company, and had to for some reasons we don't have to get into today, but. Along the way, we kind of got this desire to how can we make custom graphics affordable and accessible to as many churches as possible? Because the traditional model is you either hire out a freelancer who can be super expensive, or hiring somebody in staff, which is even more expensive than a freelancer. So how can we make that possible? So we made this unlimited custom graphic solution. So for us, we give every church that we work with no active project caps. Like we can work on as many projects as possible that you need at a time. Because we found pastors don't like thinking through how many projects can I get in the queue right now. It's only one. All right, which one's priority? We don't want you to worry about that. So we got rid of that. We can handle as much as you throw at us. But that's the base premise. Unlimited custom graphics. It's like having an entire squad of designers on your side to help you with your media and your communications.
Yeah, that's awesome. So today we're actually we're shifting. We're actually going to have a really great conversation about effective media ministry.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about, first off, what is a media ministry to you? What's your definition of media ministry? Because I think at each church it looks different.
Sure. So I think the ultimate definition of a well-done media ministry at a church involves taking the mission, vision, and messaging of a church and giving visuals behind it that communicate that mission, vision, and messages.
So it might be a comms team. It might be known as a media team. There are so many different terms that churches call it.
Yeah.
And so, it might be media, it might be communications, but essentially just a team that is creating visuals for the church. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. In a way that actually communicates what we're trying to communicate.
Right. Okay, so my question for you is, what's the first step towards creating a more effective media ministry, a more effective communication ministry, whatever you're calling it at your church?
Yeah, I think we probably all have heard this a ton of times, but I think it's always helpful to repeat it. The very first step in any communications effort is defining your target audience. Who is it that we're actually creating media for? And the reason behind that is somebody in rural Kansas that's a mid-40-something-year-old is going to view something completely different than somebody in their early 20s in Seattle. So we have to really think through, who are we creating media for before we even start making anything. So that target audience is step number one, defining who they are, what do they like, what do they dislike, where are the places they like to hang out, what are their worries that they're worried about, what are the things that gets them excited. Basically trying to define everything about these people so that we can understand them.
Yeah. So I teach marketing at a university. Yeah. And literally the most basic marketing communications plan that you can have is first, like you have a product or a service, then
Yep.
you're like, well, who's the target audience for that? And then how do we make a plan? So maybe we do some market research, right? And figure out what do they want, maybe survey the people.
Yep.
And then we do the plan. We make a plan. We do the plan.
Yeah.
Then we evaluate the plan.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's just a cyclical cycle. Because even so, I've walked through this with the church I'm coaching right now over the last few weeks. We had assumed some things about our target audience. So as soon as we talked to them, were completely inaccurate. So that was super helpful, just even getting that reevaluation over and over again, because people change, or you might not have a good understanding of that target audience, and evaluating what you actually understand is a key thing.
Yeah. So what should you do after you defined your target audience? So we kind of just discussed that, but I want to make sure that we get really specific about what do you do after you get a target market.
Yeah. So I'd say step one is writing that out. Then step two is getting people that actually fit that target audience mentality that you can talk to about pretty much everything. Show them graphics, figure out, kind of show them what you've been talking about as your target audience, and see, is this actually accurate to what I thought was the case? But making it a core group of people that actually fit that, we want to design stuff for you. So what can we do that actually makes sense to you?
Right. That's where surveying, I think, is so important. I don't think people understand the value of a really good survey. And people do surveying really poorly because they'll ask these open-ended questions, and really you need to ask some closed-ended. You want a few open-ended, but you mostly want closed-ended questions so you can really see a chart of the data, right?
Yeah.
And so it's easy to ask people, like, what design aesthetic do you like? You don't even have to like really design a lot of stuff. You can really just show them, do you prefer Target or Walmart?
Exactly.
And you'll know, like, they'll be like, oh, we're a Walmart church. Like, we love Walmart, so that we totally know, like, that's a different kind, that's a different kind of people.
Yeah. Are you watching Chip and Joanna Gaines Fixer Upper all the time? Or are you over here watching, I can't even think of a good
Duck Dynasty.
Yeah, there you go. Duck Dynasty. Which one are you watching?
Right.
That's exactly what we did with the client church. When we talked to people, we wanted to figure out, what is it that you actually like to go do? Where are places that you like to hang out? We didn't actually even start to talk about aesthetics to begin with. We just started with, what are your likes and dislikes?
Right.
I think you learn so much more about a target audience through that than asking, do you like this graphic? Which can help down the road, but not really the primary starting place, I don't think.
For sure. And, people, for tools and surveying, you can use SurveyMonkey. Google Forms is also great, and it's free. Like, really, you don't have to get the way you collect it doesn't have to be, collecting it is really important, but it doesn't have to be expensive.
No.
So we actually got a great question over here from Hope via the Facebook group. She said, what has been your method of evaluating congregants? So I'm trying to figure out how to appeal to them.
Yeah. Okay. Trying to appeal to those congregants. I think, like we kind of were already saying, the ideal thing to me is picking 5 people, no more than 5 people in your congregation that fit whatever your target audience might be. And just sitting down with them and having a conversation with them about what we've been talking about, likes, dislikes, what are things that excite you? What are the things that you're worried about in life? That's a good starting point. And then after you kind of learn those things, you can start doing research on what are places these people actually go to. That was one of the big things in this church we coached. We found some places that people like to go to, and I went to those websites and looking at their retail spaces. And it gave me an instant appeal to what actually attracts the eye of these people that they can't verbally tell me. Most people, unless you're a designer, are not going to be able to tell you what they actually like visually. But if you can find out what places they like to go to, you'll get an idea of that visual that they actually are drawn to, even though they can't articulate that directly.
Yeah, Hope actually, she went on to say, using SurveyMonkey or Jotform, stuff like that for surveying is great. But she also said, focus groups are more vocal. And I think that's what we're talking about, doing kind of a focus group.
Exactly.
I wish that we could do that right now. Obviously, we really can't. I mean, we could meet on Zoom or something like that, but we haven't been able. Sorry, I don't know what happened there.
No, that was my camera source.
Oh, that's okay. We're still talking.
That's okay. You guys
So,
can listen to me talk, I guess, and just look at
yeah,
Katie, so.
just look at Katie. It's the Katie show.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So I'll kind of chat while you're trying to fix your camera back.
Sure.
So let's just talk about like generic marketing just for a second. Back to like how you usually do it. Oh, there we go. It's coming back.
All right.
Hey, all right. Show and stream. Okay, here he comes. Here comes Michael again. Okay, sorry. Hey, you know what? It happens.
Yep.
That's what happens when you get real live, guys. We're not simulated live right now. It's authentic. It's real. The people love it. So, okay. So I guess the next question is, what do we do with this information? Like once we finally have it, like, okay, we've surveyed, we've done a focus group, maybe on Zoom or whatever. And we've got all this information. We need to do something with this information. Exactly. So what do we do?
So for me, when I'm doing something like this, what I'll do is I'll grab a Pinterest board together of just screenshots of everything I found from that focus group, or maybe pictures I've taken from other places that I know that focus group is really interested in. Putting a Pinterest board together, throwing that into Photoshop, and then kind of developing some fake test run graphics, colors, even font choices. And then what I've done with that fake design, it's almost like a fake brand guidelines. It's not real yet, but we're kind of testing the waters here, taking that brand guidelines, going back to that focus group and just showing it to them. This is what I've come up with a visual. What do you guys like about this? Don't like? I did come this last time with 2 different views. I think it's important to come up with 2 different kind of looks at the minimum, so that people, it was very clear at the end, like, oh no, we really love number 2 over number 1. It was way the clear winner, even though they had no idea what they were actually saying from a designer's language standpoint. They were able to, now that I've put in front of them stuff that I know is going to visually appeal to them, they're able to kind of talk back with, oh, I really love this font over that font, or I like this color scheme because it's brighter than that one.
You know, while we're doing this online ministry thing and we're all kind of in a virtual space for the most part, I think it would be great to go and do some of the surveying or focus group thing right now with our congregation. Like, what do you like about our feed? Like, what do you not like about it? Would you prefer more of an interview style? Do you, you know, like, is the sermon like, would you prefer having a sermon like with like via an interview? You know what I'm saying? Like, there are so many different ways. You don't have to do it the way we've always done it, because now we get a chance to, hey, if we want to bring in a missionary who's, you know, in Uganda, we can do that right now for the service. Like that's, you know, something that we can do. So I just think, you know, what a great time for us to be creative, and we can really take some great information, you know, and ask our audience, like, what do you want? How, like, do you want emails? Do you want texting? You know,
even then, I think like so one of the questions we asked our focus group was, what social media platforms do you use? And we found out that many of them don't use Facebook, and the church was trying to make such a big focus on their Facebook page. But nobody was looking at Facebook pages at all. They were mostly looking at Instagram. And even then, taking Instagram the next step further, doing research and other posts in that area, most people only really liked pictures of actual people. They did not like pictures of graphics in that area. So posting graphics on their social media feed was totally useless, which is interesting, being a media guy that designs graphics all day, to say the graphics were useless on social media. There's other places that they're useful for that church, but there's so much you can learn just talking with this group.
And that's not the case for every church, right? Like, I mean, what works for one church won't work for every church. And, you know, it was interesting. I actually got to talk to a guy who grows Instagram accounts. Like, so he grows Instagram, he grows Facebook accounts. And, you know, for him, and I know you're a graphic designer, so you're going to hate me for this, but like for them, the best stuff that goes viral is the ugliest. I mean, it's like the graphics and stuff. It's things that you're not expecting. So don't feel like, you know, you got to put all this pressure on yourself to like create the world's best, most innovative graphic you've ever created. The point is to get the content out and to do, you know, and with Church Media Squad, you can get more content out all the time.
So I mean, one of the core things we do make is social media graphics. But I do think that churches generally slip into this. It needs to look perfect on Instagram, which the data doesn't really correlate with. It needs to look picture perfect on media.
I'm telling you, a guy who grows and he's a pastor. He's actually in the Facebook group. I won't mention who he is because I don't want him to get like inundated with like questions. But I asked him, I was like, how do you grow these accounts to millions of followers? Millions. Yeah. He's like, I post a lot. And he's like, a lot of times the ugliest stuff goes viral.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And some people, had this hard, strict rule of I will only post once a day. And I think that was probably because they were getting inundated with content. And like, I used to be that kind of way. I'd be like, at least post once a day. Yeah. But now I've kind of like changed my tune. I'm like, all right, we should probably be posting more, like, because we don't know what the algorithm is really doing. It's not like, at any moment something on there could change in our favor. And so anyways, just getting stuff out there is great. Okay. So I think that's my last question is having the latest design trend important when you're reaching people?
Maybe. Depends on your context. That's kind of the big thing. If you have a 100%. Target audience that's 20-something-year-olds in Seattle, absolutely the trendiest thing is what you should be doing. If, however, you live in my parents' small town in the middle of nowhere, Kansas, where most people are in their 40s or 50s, no, it will not work. Don't follow the trends. So
like they're the Walmarts and Targets, and like the Seattle people are like the coffee shops and the so that's a little different. I completely understand. I agree.
I think at the same time, though, you can have quality graphics regardless of where you are physically. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're on trend. Trendy is like, here, let's have all these crazy looking graphics. Right. But you can still have great looking graphics that also appeal to a 40 and 50-year-old that don't look like they were designed 20 years ago. So and please don't steal graphics from Google Images. Yes. I feel like that should go without saying, but we're always still educating a lot of churches on how copyright works. You can't just Google like your favorite Bible verse and then grab that image. That's not how it works. No. Somebody created that. So, and also too, I feel like we'll see a lot, and they're so hokey. I mean, please don't put like, we'll rise on the wings like eagles and just have a picture of an eagle. It's too much for me. Every time I see those, I'm just like, this is too much. Well, one of the things with good media too is trying to make sure that everything we're doing is, you can be on brand too, without being like, by on brand, I don't mean like, here's our 5 colors and we're sticking with these 5 colors, but rather we're really keen about talking. My church is really intellectually focused. So we're really keen on hitting that particular crowd. So we're not going to do the fluffy kind of flying on wings like eagles kind of things, regardless of the style. We're going to focus more on, here's a helpful guide on diving into this Greek word in Timothy. Like that's what my church might put out as content.
Giving context to the content. Yeah. And I'm a big fan of that. And I think, we didn't really talk about, I mean, you talked a little bit about brands guide, but could you maybe there was a great question earlier today in the group that was like, can you differentiate between a brand guide and a style guide?
Gotcha. So a brand guide is kind of, in my mind, something like if we're going to do anything that is talking directly about our church, so that's your website, direct invite cards that aren't tied to a sermon series, letterheads, those kind of things. Brand guidelines are mostly for that, so that you stay on brand, as it were. A style guide, on the other hand, is I kind of consider a style guide as fence posts that we have to work within. So here's a fence post that we can work within, but the good thing, a good style guide gives a lot of breathing room within it. So one of the problems I see every once in a while, there are churches I think that go the over branded route where they only use the 5 colors, they only use the three fonts on every single graphic, and you run into a problem there of, I call it eye blindness, just like nose blind. Your eye becomes blind to something when it sees the same thing over and over again. The example I've given people is you're driving to work, you notice a new building's going up, and in your mind you're thinking, man, I hope that's a new coffee shop. I'd love to get some great coffee on the way home. A couple weeks go by, it's getting wrapped up. You notice it's a dental office, and then a few weeks after that, you don't even register that dental office is there anymore because it's not new. It's something that's there. You just don't even think about it anymore. Same thing goes with our graphics on our pages. If everything has the exact same fonts, the exact same colors, the exact same layout, we're actually causing ourselves to be, our people to become blind to what we're putting out there, which is helpful.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree. Well, Michael, this has been fantastic. Is there anything that you would like to share with our wonderful guests while we have them?
I guess just a reminder, as you guys saw in the group header, we've got a free PDF. I hope it's super helpful to you guys. 7 time-saving tips for busy church communicators. One of our internal goals at Church Media Squad is to save ourselves and churches a ton of time. So we put some of our top favorite tips of saving time in there. Hopefully that can help serve you guys. You can get that going on the banner or going to churchmediasquad.com/save-time.
Oh, I didn't want to show
it. It may not show on the screen, but it's /save-time. We can post a link maybe in the comments.
Yeah, we'll post a link on the comments. Yeah. There we go. All right. So anyways, y'all, please go and check that out. I love just everything that Michael's doing. Like I said, they're actually good people, which is just, so wonderful to support. And so anyway, thank you so much for taking the time and joining us today, Michael. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Katie, for having me. I really loved it.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see y'all next time.
Thanks, guys.